Hey everyone, this is Brian from ActiveMelody.com. Well, most of the lessons at Active Melody are all blues based, and usually I'll play either traditional blues or occasionally we'll go into some classic rock, but this week I've strayed off the path a little bit farther than I normally would, but that's to pay tribute to Angus Young. He's a guitar player, obviously for AC/DC, but he's just a great lead guitar player, and I saw an interview with him recently on YouTube, and I was just kind of blown away by his demeanor and just his approach to playing guitar. He's very much rooted in traditional blues if you listen to what he's doing. A lot of Chuck Berry and, sort of even going beyond that. So anyway, I wanted to, I also found out that Malcolm Young, his brother and the rhythm guitar player for the band, has dementia. That just was released this week. And so I thought this would be a good time to do a tribute to Angus and his contributions to the guitar community. So anyway, we're going to learn everything that I played in the intro note for note. I'll break that down for you into two videos. So in this video, we're just going to look at the first half. And if you want to watch the second half and download the tablature and download the jam track so that you can practice along, you're going to want to go to ActiveMelody.com and look for ep071. Alright, so let's talk through tone real quick. Now, I'm using, the amp setting is really just clean channel with a little bit of reverb, and I'm using an OCD pedal, which is made by Full Tone, so it's full tone OCD, and I only have two pedals that I use for all overdrive. I use either this Full Tone OCD or I use my Boss Blues Driver, which is a BD2 pedal. And I use the Boss really 80% of the time. For most of these lessons, I'm using that Boss Blues Driver. It gives you a little bit of overdrive, not quite as heavy sounding, but if I'm doing something like Cream or obviously AC/DC, I'm going to switch to this OCD pedal, and the tone is really brash along, when you compare it with this Gibson ES335. It's got a real bright sound, and it breaks up in a nice kind of way. But for the lesson, I'm going to actually switch this one off and switch on the Blues Driver BD2. It gives a little bit of overdrive, but not quite as heavy. It's easier to understand the notes as I explain them. So that's what I'm using for the lesson part. Let's see, what else? Oh, so the chords, there's 4 chords that I'm using in this. I'm using an A, C, D, and I repeat the A and the C, and then the 4th chord is a G. So it's A, C, D, A, C, G, and it just keeps looping. I should have done A, C, D, C, right? But anyway, so those are the chords, and let me explain the jam track. There's actually a bonus for you premium members. I've included 2 jam tracks. So you have the jam track that's just minus the lead, which is the primary one, but I've also included an extra one that has the second rhythm part missing. So there's actually 2 rhythm parts for this. The first rhythm part goes, it goes like this, really simple. Just goes back and forth between the A and the G. But the second one is the one that's got the chord changes, so it's just a... And I thought it would be good to include a jam track minus that for those of you that are wanting to just kind of play along with that real heavy rhythm part. It's fun to play with. So, okay, and that's another thing just to mention. When Angus Young is playing, when he does come down and play chords, he'll play a lot of open or chords down here in first position, which is kind of unusual, when you have a real distorted guitar, but it works for him, works for the band. And Malcolm, his brother, will do that too. So you get this real nice, bright, big sound when you do that. So this starts with, we're in the key of A, should mention that, and we're playing, most of Angus Young's licks are in the A minor pentatonic scale. That's where he pretty much always hangs out. No, not always. Sometimes it does go down to the major scale for some things. Like if you listen to Shook Me All Night Long, for example, the lead in that, he does switch over to the major for a good portion of that. But if you ever see any of their live videos, he really hangs out in that minor pentatonic scale. So that we know that the A minor pentatonic scale, the root fret is, hopefully you know this by now, but because this is covered in a lot of previous lessons, but it's on the 5th fret here. So the root fret is the fret, if you're going to make a bar chord, Wherever your bar goes down, that's your root fret. So that gives you a home base. So when you think of the minor pentatonic scale pattern 1, it looks like this. And this is all covered, by the way, in the blues lead course over at activemelody.com. So now that we know where we're at, or we at least know what our boundaries are for the pattern 1 of the minor pentatonic scale for the key of A, it's a mouthful. Here's where that first lick starts. So we're going to start by barring the first 2 strings on the 5th fret. And then I'm going to take my ring finger and I'm going to come down here to the 7th fret, 3rd string, and I'm going to do a full bend like this, keeping this bar down. Because as soon as I reach the top of that bend, I'm going to play strings 2 and 3. So all together, we're going to play string 3. I'm sorry, that's 2 and 1. All together, we're going to play strings 3, 2, and 1. Let's do that again. 3, 2, 1. Now this is like Blues Lead 101 right here. This is where you hear most blues. Anytime you hear somebody doing a blues solo, somebody's going to go to this place right here. Because it's Chuck Berry, it's Angus Young, it's Eric Clapton, it's, you know, everybody kind of ends up here at some point in a solo, pretty much. So okay, so it's 3, 2, and 1. Now the picking pattern is down, up, down with the right hand. So watch my right hand. Down, up, down. Now we're going to come back and play the 2nd string. So we're going to go strings 3, 2, 1, and 2. So 3, 2, 1, 2. Keeping this bar of these first 2 strings the whole time. Okay, now after that, then I'm going to come over here, I'm going to use my ring finger for this, and I'm going to come to the 8th fret, 2nd string, and I'm going to do a full bend. So let's put it together to there. Just keep doing that until you get that down. Now after you get that bend, what you're doing is you're doing a full bend. So a full bend is when you're trying to match the note that's 2 frets higher than when you're started. So you're trying to match that note, right? Which happens to be the same note as this. This is the 5th fret, 1st string. So just keep in mind, visualize that pattern 1 scale. We're playing in that area now, just so you can start to get the boundaries. So let me back up. So what we have, after we do that full bend, I'm going to come up here and play the 5th fret, 1st string. So I'm actually matching that note. So this note that I bend to is the same as this note. And that same thing happens, by the way, in the beginning of this. So that when I bend on the 3rd string, 7th fret here, the note that I play after that is the same as the note that I just bent to. See, it's a match. And so same thing happens here. Now just remember that, because when you're playing blues lead, that gives you tons of options. So when you hear stuff like, you can start to understand where that's coming from. Or I hear a lot of guys playing lead and they'll go, do licks like that, and that's what they're doing. They're holding one note and they're bending another string to match that note. And it creates this kind of weird thing where the 2 notes come together in a weird way, and it sounds kind of cool to the ear. Okay, so now after we hit that note, then watch this. Then it goes. So we're going to learn that little run. So once we get to the 5th fret, 1st string, we're going to come back to the 8th fret, 2nd string. Then we're going to come to the 5th fret, 2nd string. Then we're going to come to the 7th fret, 3rd string. And then back to the 5th fret, 2nd string. So let me do that slowly without talking over it. So we have. So watch the right hand when I'm doing this. It starts with an upstroke. So that's actually an upstroke. That 5th fret, 1st string. So it's up, down, up, down, up. So it's just alternate. Up, down, up, down, up. So let's get the timing of that. I'm gonna do it. Let me do it up to tempo so you can get where we're going, so you can hear it in context, and then we'll back it up. So here's where it should sound like. Now that's going to take some practice to get the control, especially with your right hand, to do that alternate picking if you're really new to playing. But if you just kind of practice it over and over again, you'll get it. It's just muscle memory. So slowly, it sounds like this. So after I play the 5th fret 2nd string, I'm going to take my pointer finger and I'm going to come down and play the 3rd string on the 5th fret. So like this. So they're both like, right together there. So it's actually easy to jump from here to here. And when I jump to the 5th fret 3rd string, I push it slightly sharp like this. Then I come down and play the 7th fret 4th string, 5th fret 4th string, and then back to the 7th fret 4th string. So those 3 notes sound like that in terms of timing. So it's down, up, down with the right hand. Down, up, down. So let me back up and I'll put the whole thing together. So it sounds like this. Again, slower. Now the challenge may be going playing both those notes on the 5th fret, going between strings 2 and 3, and giving a little bit of a push when you hit that third string. That's a real important thing to remember when you're playing blues. It gives you a little bit of a, when you push that note sharp, it just gives it a little bit of twang. You don't have to do it, but it's those little nuances. It's subtle, but it really does improve the character of your playing. Hear that? You can just feel it. And another place that it works is here on the 8th fret 1st string, which is an octave higher. So if you're ever playing any lead up here, when you hit that note, you can always push it sharp. So that works for any scale, by the way. So we're obviously playing in the key of A, but if we were playing in a different key, let's say we're playing in the key of G, same thing applies. So just remember that. Alright, so the next thing that happens is this lick that goes. And the good news about this is there's a lot of repetition. In fact, this whole solo has a lot of repetitive licks, which is kind of, indicative of Angus Young. To stress a point, oftentimes he would, he'll just kind of keep beating a lick over and over again. So let's look at what I'm doing here. It's 5th fret. I'm barring the first 3 strings, even though I'm only playing strings 2 and 3. And when I play them, so I'm just playing those 2 strings. Again, I'm doing that little bend where I'm pulling it slightly sharp. Now with these, I'm pulling. You can see the direction that I'm bending the string. So I'm not pushing, I'm pulling. And it allows you to do it with one finger. So after I play that, then I come down to the 7th fret 4th string, and I'm really going back and forth between pulling these 2 strings and playing that 7th fret 4th string. And here's kind of the timing of it. It sounds like this. So you can see there's 2 of these, 1, 2, 3. So it's almost like a triplet. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Right hand is just doing downstrokes, so it's just down, 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 down. Now if you're having a hard time doing that bend in the beginning, just skip it. You don't have to do the bend. You could just go, just play it straight, but I think the bend is what you want to try and get to. So let's back up, and I can't remember exactly. Now the tablature has it spelled out exactly how many of these. I don't remember. I think it was 5, but I'm not 100%. So let me back up, and I'll play from the beginning up to that point. So we have... Now after that, I switched and played... Love that lick. It's a very much of a Chuck Berry thing, but I heard Angus doing that on some song that I was listening to. So what he's doing is, and actually we've already done this, but it's just changing the timing. With the first 2 notes, in fact, in this solo are what we're going to do here. So I'm taking my pointer finger and pushing down on the 5th fret 2nd string, and then my ring finger comes to the 7th fret 3rd string. I'm going to do a full bend on the 7th fret 3rd string here, and I'm going to match that note here. So all I'm doing is, you can see this stays down the whole time. So don't try taking this off this pointer finger down. Just lock it down on the 5th fret 2nd string, and then just let this finger just... Now I'm using, when I'm demonstrating this, I'm using just all downstrokes. You could do a down, up, down, up, down, but I think for this kind of stuff, I usually always just go to downstroke. It's just easier for me, because that also allows you to do, getting into that, back to that Chuck Berry thing. And that's hard to do if you're doing alternate picking. So, alright, so... And again, I don't remember how many of these I did. You'll have to watch the intro. When you're playing along with the... and don't get too robotic about it. I know I always get emails from people saying, well, exactly how many of those did you... Don't think of it that way. If you're playing along with a jam track and you want to do it exactly the way I do it, I would say just watch the intro video. I do have a slow walkthrough video as well, and that'll be helpful to kind of learn that. But you can count them out. In the tab, I did count them out. I just don't remember how many of those there were, but it was around 5, I think. And then the next thing that I did after that... Oh, here's another little trick, or a little tip, I guess, is when you're playing this, you don't have to be, this is rock and roll, so you can be a little bit sloppy. So you don't have to be super precise and hit, 3rd string, 2nd string, 3rd string. It almost sounds better if you can kind of hit the 3 and the 2 together like this. Hear how it's starting to kind of blend the notes, especially when you put on a little heavier tones. See, listen to this. It just gives it a little more character, I think, to do that. So that's just a little tip, I guess. So let your hand be loose. And after that, I went over here and started doing some of these. And what I did there is I took my ring finger and put it down on the 8th fret 2nd string. My middle finger goes down on the 7th fret 3rd string. Now this is going to be a little bit of a challenge, because what you're going to have to do is keep your 8th fret 2nd string, you're going to have to keep that locked down while you push. See what's happening here with this finger? It's pushing. In fact, look, I'm using 2 fingers to do the push. So the note itself is on the 7th fret 3rd string, but I actually get my pointer finger down on the on that string, and the 2 fingers end up pushing. But the natural tendency is going to be for you to push that too sharp or flat, and not make it, if it's not right. So if it's too flat, it sounds like this, or if it's too sharp, it sounds like this. So you got to get just right, and while holding this note down and bend up to it. So that's going to take a little practice if you're new to bending in this position, or bending when you're dealing with 2 strings. But just practice it, and you'll notice that I changed the timing on that to make that a little easier. So it's not, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, and just hit, throwing it out there like that. So let me back up and play the whole thing up to that point, and we've almost got this. This is one other little part. So here we go. just downstrokes too. You're only hitting strings 2 and 3. Now after that I went. Let's learn that. So after we come out of that last bend, out of that, then I come down and play the 5th fret 3rd string. Ring finger goes down on the 7th fret. Now watch this. So I'm going to do a little bar here because I'm going to play strings 4 and 3, both on the 7th fret. So watch this. Let's back up and do that. Just practice that. And I use my ring finger for that. Some of you may want to use your middle finger on that one. That's just up to you. Then I come back to the 5th fret 3rd string, and what do we do when we play the 5th fret 3rd string in the key of A? Slightly push it sharp, and then I land on the 7th fret 4th string. And you'll hear Angus doing the little sharp thing. He does it a lot, and I like to think he got that from Eric Clapton, who got that from Freddie King. But there's a trail of that, and who knows where Freddie got it. But that's where that it sounds to me like Clapton in the Cream era. He would do a lot of that. But so does Angus. So that's that whole first part. Let me back up one last time. I'll play through it slowly so you can have this. And make sure you download the tab so you can count out exactly how many if you want to be super precise. Otherwise, just learn these licks and download the jam track and just have fun with them. You can start to rearrange them if you want and just start with different ones. There's no right or wrong. So here we go. Here's the whole thing. And that's all we have for this first video.